Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. I'm back with another video today, and in this one we're going to be talking about childbirth. Yay! Because we're going to be talking about birth, it's going to get pretty graphic. So here is a disclaimer for anyone who doesn't want to hear about my vagine. Log out of this video right now. Dad, my cousins that are guys, my boyfriend's family, my boyfriend's brothers, you know who you are, get out. This is not for you. I'm gonna be talking about my boo. So get out. It's actually a video for everyone. I mean, if you want to stay, you want to stay. I just have to warn you that I'm going to be talking about my vagine, and if that's going to change the way you live your life, you should leave. But if it's not, you can stay. I'm looking on my phone here because I have my notes, because today's video is going to be about the 5 fears, my 5 biggest fears, because I had many fears, but my 5 biggest fears that I had about giving birth, and then what actually happened, how I got over them, how it actually went down during birth. So we're gonna find out if any of my fears were real, if any of them were irrational, all that good stuff. You may not have these fears, but I feel like a lot of these fears are really common fears that a lot of women have that are pregnant. I personally spent the entire 9 months of my pregnancy fearing birth, fearing childbirth, and being very afraid about what was going to happen to my body. So I spent so much time looking up videos on childbirth. Like, I wanted to hear everything that anyone had to say about it, and the more information on the internet about birth, the better, in my opinion, because it's going to, you know, give you more information. These aren't in any specific order, but I'm gonna try to put them like in the order that they happened, like in birth, if that makes any sense. So fear of mine number 1 was getting an epidural. I knew from the get-go that if I was going to be giving birth, I needed drugs, because natural, I'm not strong enough for that, okay? If you have had a natural birth, please allow me to tell you that you are the baddest of the bad, and you are amazing, because I could never. I was so terrified of getting an epidural. Even though I knew I wanted one, I was really scared of getting it because I knew it was a really, really big needle that they would be putting into my spine, and that was freaking me out. My first fear was like I would never be able to walk again because the guy was just gonna poke a nerve in my spine, and that would be that, which is like could happen. The second fear was that a lot of women complain about never being the same after getting an epidural, as far as pain in their back, or just not being able to sleep, not being able to walk, not being able to just be how they were before, because their bodies have been so permanently damaged by an epidural. And again, do your own research on this. I personally didn't do any research because I just didn't want to be talked out of it. Like, I could not give birth without it, and I didn't want to hear anything bad. Like, obviously there are side effects and risks that you take when getting an epidural, and I just didn't want to know anything about it because I needed it. But do your own research. Definitely know that you are taking a risk when you get an epidural, and decide if it's for you. What actually happened when I got an epidural was that it wasn't as bad as I thought. So there's a lot of things that I didn't know about getting one. I did not know, number 1, that no one could be in the room with me. That was one of the rules at my hospital. I thought for sure my mom and my boyfriend were going to be able to be with me when I got an epidural, but no, they had to leave the room. It was just an anesthesiologist and a nurse, or his assistant, or I don't know who she was, but she was, I'm gonna assume she was a nurse. And they were the only 2 in the room with me. The second thing I didn't know is how uncomfortable of a position you have to be to get the epidural. So you're pregnant and they have you sit at the edge of the bed. Sorry, I'm gonna kind of try to demonstrate here. They have you sit at the edge of the bed and you have to curl over your belly so that your spine is like as fully exposed as it can be, which is fine, but like what you think your curling is enough, it's not. Like the job of the nurse that was in the room with me was to literally push me down, like push my back down as hard as she could so that my spine was as exposed as it could be and he could inject me properly. That hurts. It really hurts because you almost feel like you're crushing your baby. Like I can't explain how far they bend you over. Like it's really far, and it's so far that you literally can't do it naturally. You have this humongous belly and you're trying as hard as you can to bend over and it's not enough. Like she is like pushing you, and as she's pushing you, sometimes the doctor's like, no more, and you're like, oh, like even more pushing, and she holds you there for the entire injection. So that's another thing that I didn't know. So that was pretty uncomfortable and a little bit painful. Like it only hurt that like I felt like I was being, literally my stomach was being crushed and all my daughter's like limbs were like poking me in the ribs and like the sides, and she was really just like being squished in there. So that was one thing. And then number 3 was that there are 2 injections. So if you don't know a lot about epidural, which if you're a young mother like I was, you probably don't, and a first-time mother, you probably don't. So it is 2 injections. One numbs you and one is the actual injection of the epidural. And I didn't know that. So I was under the impression that I was gonna feel like a really big, long, giant needle like you see in the cartoons, that just poking me in the back, and you don't. But you do feel one needle. You feel 2, but the first needle is the one that hurts, and it's the one that numbs you. And it just feels like a sting, like a bee sting almost. You feel him prick you and you feel it go in, and then the medicine that's being pushed in is like the part that stings. So while he's pushing it in, you just feel like a sting and you're just like, ooh, ow. Then it's done. Then you're numbed, and from then on, and for me, this is all my experience, by the way. So if your experience was different, then leave it down below because this is all I know. For me, you just feel like a tapping on your spine, like literally on the spinal bone. Is he touching the bone? I really don't know. I'm not a doctor, but it feels like he's like literally poking your spine with the needle. And it feels just like this. Like if you were to poke like your hand, that's exactly what it felt like on my back. If someone were to like poke you in the back, but it felt like on the bone. Like you poke your hand and you kind of feel, you can feel the bone under, but you feel skin. But when he's doing it with the needle, you just feel like bone to needle. And again, I don't know if the needle's actually touching your bone, but it feels like it is. But it doesn't hurt. It just feels like a tapping. And the hardest part of the epidural, honestly, besides the little sting that you feel for the first injection, is just being nervous that like they're gonna hurt you. But if you follow the instructions of what the nurse is saying and what the doctor is saying, that's all you can do. Just do the best you can to follow the instructions that they are telling you, because your life depends on it, pretty much. A recommendation. I'm not a doctor and I really hate saying recommendation, especially on YouTube where things live forever, because of course I don't recommend anything to anyone. Do your own research and do what's best for you. But if you really think that you're gonna get an epidural and you know it's what you want, like I did not wait to be in pain or major pain to get my epidural. Okay, I listened to what I wanted, and I knew from the get that I wanted an epidural, and for me there was no point in waiting until I felt this unbearable pain to get one. And I think that worked best in my favor, because I could not imagine like having to sit completely still, curled over my belly while going through an intense contraction, because your contractions don't stop. So if the time to get an epidural is in the middle of one of your contractions, you're gonna have to wait till it's over and then they can inject you. Or like, I really don't know how it works if you're in deep pain, because I was not in pain, but I had enough uncomfortability, like a really bad period cramp. Like it felt like a really bad period cramp. Like I was 3 centimeters. I couldn't talk through them, but they weren't unbearable. Like I was fine. Like I was just like, oh, that hurts. I need an epidural now, I think. And my mom was like, it's too early. Like you just got here. Like why are you getting an epidural? Like you haven't felt any pain. And I'm like, I know, but I don't want to. Like I just felt like that was enough. Like that one, not one, but like that level of cramping that I was feeling was good for me. I didn't want to go past there. I really had no further interest in knowing what other pain was in store for me, because that was just unnecessary in my opinion. I knew I wanted an epidural. Let's get this thing over with. Let's get this show on the road, because I'm not trying to be here suffering for another 10 hours. I recommend doing that. I recommend just getting it when you feel like you're comfortable enough to sit through sitting really, really still and getting a needle put in your back. If you're like writhing in pain, obviously a lot of women are writhing in pain and get an epidural and are completely fine, but I just feel like it's easier when you're not. Like, so for me, if you know that you are gonna want one, get it when you feel like you should get it. Get it as soon as you can, in my opinion. Get it as soon as you can. You're in the least amount of pain. You can sit still and do all the other things and kind of just focus on making it as easy for the anesthesiologist to get it right, rather than just being in severe pain and writhing and moving, and you can't sit still. Like that's just so much harder for me. So that was my number one fear going in, and how I kind of got over it. Fear number 2, I was really terrified, and I'm sure this is probably the most common fear. This is another really big fear of mine, of physically pushing the baby out and what was going to happen down there when I did. So pushing and possibly tearing was detrimental to my mental health. I was scared. I spent 9 months like just being afraid of how I'm gonna push the baby out of my oo. What actually happened was, again, I told you guys I got an epidural, so that made things a bajillion times easier for me, because you're numb from the waist down. And if you don't know, the epidural is like a tube, needle, syringe thing that just stays in your back the whole time you're giving birth, and they give you a button and you can push for more whenever you need it. So that was really helpful to me as far as pain. The pain level of the pushing kind of went away for me, that fear that I had once I got the epidural. And the biggest fear I had was just that the epidural was not going to be strong enough. I was still going to feel pain like during birth. And thankfully I didn't. Thankfully I didn't feel anything. I pushed 3 times and she was out. It was happening so fast that they even told me, like, you need to chill, like you're going too fast. So I pushed 2 times and they're like, please hold. And they did what they had to do down there, and they're like, okay, finish. And I just pushed her right out. She came right out and I felt nothing. I felt nothing. A lot of people compare the bearing down that you do to going to the bathroom, and that's definitely what I was doing, but I didn't feel her come out. Like, I can't even tell you what I felt. It was so easy. I loved it. It was amazing. I had a great time. However, Jared was watching, and I didn't know this at the time, but she did have to cut me to get the baby out just so that I wouldn't tear. I think she just felt like it was better to just cut me a little bit. So I'm kind of thankful for that, because I didn't tear. But I did have to get stitched back up afterwards, and I didn't feel it. I was petrified of getting stitches as well. That's one of the main reasons I was afraid of tearing. 1, I was afraid that it would hurt when I tore, and 2, I was afraid of having to get sewn back up afterwards. So when I heard the news that I didn't tear, I was happy, but then I heard the news that she had to cut me, and I was terrified again because I didn't want to get stitches. Thankfully, my epidural did not wear off by the time it was time to get stitched up. And I do think this was due to the fact that she came out so quickly. If I had been pushing for hours and hours, or 45 minutes to an hour, I don't know how numb I would have been by the time she came out and by the time it would have been time for stitches. Because I really didn't feel anything, like no birth, no placenta, no stitches, no cutting, nothing. And I was so thankful for that. They actually thought I wasn't even going to give birth that night. They were saying that I was gonna have to wait till the morning because I wasn't progressing fast enough for them. And then out of nowhere, you know, she just decided that she was gonna make her appearance that day. So by the time that I was checked, they were like, we'll check you one more time, because I swore on everything that she was coming, and my water broke and I was like, she's coming out right now, like you guys aren't listening to me. So they checked me one time and they were like, oh my god, her head's right there. Everyone, like, and they're all like, set it up. So they were setting everything up and stuff. So she was really ready to come out by the time the epidural was stopped and I sat up and got ready to give birth. So that could have contributed to it as well. But I don't know what it was, but she just came right out and I didn't feel anything. So definitely the epidural, man. I love her. I love her. Number 3, I was so terrified of even the thought of sitting on a toilet after birth, and I didn't want that. I didn't want that to happen. I never wanted to use the bathroom ever again. Obviously that's not gonna happen. You're gonna have to use the bathroom at some point after you give birth. What happened to me was the minute I finished giving birth, your epidural should be all gone. You can try to get up and walk, and if you're able to walk, she walks you over to the bathroom. My nurse walked me over to the bathroom and she had me sit on the toilet right away. So I was I was terrified to sit down. She helped me sit down. She's like, relax, and like tried to pee, and I was like, okay. And I was so scared that I just didn't even like try. Like, she could see first, I didn't have to regardless, but I didn't even want to try to push it. And she's like, no, like, if you don't have to, don't even try it, don't worry about it, get up. So I got up. She had shown me like where the wheelchair was going to be, so she was sent me in the wheelchair, and I eventually got rolled to my room where they showed me all the gadgets that they put in the bathroom for me. So that's where you get your really big diaper, your diaper mesh underwear, your squeezy bottle, your pain dermaplast or derma whatever pain spray. So she showed me all the goods, and I definitely felt better. So what I did, this is very important, is that you're immediately going to make like a concoction out of everything that they've given you, so that you can start attacking the pain down there. So first thing, you're gonna sit down, you're gonna get that squeezy bottle, you're gonna fill that with some lukewarm water. Your nurse may help you with this. I don't remember if my nurse was there to help me with this. You're gonna start spraying down there, and depending on when you give birth, you may want to take a shower. I gave birth at 11:50 at night. I was not hopping in the shower. So you're gonna clean up, you're gonna take your mesh underwear. It's very important. You're gonna put a giant pad on there. They also give you like these witch hazel pads or something, but the liquid that they use to disinfect doesn't burn. I'm pretty sure it's like witch hazel, like pads, like wet wipes almost. You're gonna use those as well. Those have medicine on there, so you're gonna wipe on there. You're gonna put the spray that they gave you. It's like a foam, it's like a dermaplast, I forget the name, derma something. Dermaplast, is that real? Dermaplast, I was right. You get some dermaplast, and you're gonna put it all over the pad. Some people even put the witch hazel like pads on top of the foam, just so that it's really soaked into the foam and the witch hazel and everything, and it's just like right on your bits. But I didn't do that. I just wiped with the pads and then discarded them, and then just let the dermaplast sit on top of the pad in the mesh underwear, and I put that on. And that's gonna be immediately helping you with relieving some of the soreness that you're gonna feel when all your epidural wears off, when you've had some rest and your body has been stagnant for a while, that's when like the soreness is gonna kick in. The next thing you're gonna do is, the minute you can, talk to a nurse. Like my nurse came in, I think sometime the next day, and was like, hey, how are you feeling? Do you need anything? And I think she offered me some ibuprofen or something. And I was like, yeah, I'll definitely take the ibuprofen, and I need stool softener. Like immediately ask them for a stool softener, so that when you do have to go to the bathroom, eventually you will have to go, it's super duper easy. You don't really have to push hard. A lot of hospitals may automatically give you this. I didn't even give my hospital the chance to offer it to me, because I was just like, I need stool softener, because it was such a fear of mine that I was like, I need this right away. Like I don't even want to think about it. Eventually you do have to sit down and go to the bathroom, and it didn't hurt at all. It was so easy. There was no stinging. I was afraid it was gonna sting. I was afraid it was gonna hurt. I was afraid I was gonna reopen a stitch or something. But if you ask for the stool softener, if you're taking the steps to just take care of yourself down there, which I'm sure you're gonna be doing, I didn't feel anything. My experience was really, really easy, and the fear ended up being not as bad as the reality at all. Ask for an ice pack if you want to. A lot of people incorporate an ice pack into that little concoction I was telling you about. They slip an ice pack into their mesh underwear and then put a pad and all that stuff, so it's nice and cold and just icing you the whole time. If you feel the need to do that, definitely do that. But as long as you do those two things, like, you know, make sure you're good down there and ask for a stool softener. Going to the bathroom is pretty easy. Next order of business, pain after birth. I was definitely terrified of what it was gonna feel like after I was done giving birth. I knew like throughout my entire pregnancy that I was gonna be afraid of pushing and stuff. And as I got closer and closer and closer, there's a cat, oh my God, hello. Closer and closer to my due date, I started thinking like, oh my God, forget about pushing, that's gonna hurt. What about after I push? What am I even gonna feel like after I start pushing? And I started really freaking myself out, because I was like, I don't know if I can do this. I'm really scared. And I'm not gonna lie to you, after birth, for me, it was like the most painful part, because I didn't really feel any pain during labor. And it's not unbearable pain, but I just remember feeling like I was hit by a Mack truck. Every single part of me was sore. My eyebrows were sore. Like I remember doing this and like being like, ow, that hurts. What was I doing with my eyebrows during labor? I don't know, probably like squeezing really hard. But yeah, my eyebrows were in pain. Like everything was just like, oh, like it feels like you just did the greatest workout of your life, and because you really did, and just every muscle is just like kind of sore. You definitely have to lay down. You definitely need rest. It's not so bad that you can't get up and walk and take a shower, like you do, but as you're moving, you're just like, oh my God, I just gave birth, it hurts. Like you're just feeling really sore. So you're definitely gonna want to get the ibuprofen if you're into that kind of thing. I am into that kind of thing, stuff, and that really does help you. My opinion is to take that, but you do you, girl. But again, it's not an unbearable pain, but it's just like you just really want to lay down. You really want to lay down and stay down. At least that's how I felt. As far as down there, like I said before, they do give you a lot of things that you need to just keep yourself numb and contained. You feel like a lot of soreness. It almost feels like all your insides are just resting in your uterus. Like you feel like a lot of pressure and like it's heavy. And I remember feeling like the rest of my body was empty besides right here. Like I was like, what the heck? I feel like every organ in my body is just sitting in there and being like a weight. It feels like your whole body just sinks down there. And take it easy. Like you're gonna have to take it easy. You're gonna have to just chill out for a second and get some rest. Take the ibuprofen. But again, nothing unbearable. Women do it every day. It's not a big deal, but definitely I thought after birth, like I didn't know if I was gonna spring back up like a spring chicken and be able to do things, or if it was gonna hurt, and it definitely hurt. I remember my toes being sore, my feet. I was like, what the heck happened to me? Like, I don't even remember using all these muscles while giving birth, but you do. And even muscles that you weren't, like, oh, like the back of my hands, I was like, oh my God, I feel horrible. Like, I don't feel good. Like, everything just hurts. And again, that depends on how you gave birth. Cesarean pain, I don't know anything of what that's like because I didn't have a cesarean, but I'm sure that's a whole nother ball game of what goes down. My last fear about pregnancy, birth, giving birth, childbirth, was that my, you know what, was never ever gonna be the same. I was terrified that I was just gonna be all kinds of messed up down there, and I didn't know how I was gonna deal with that. But lo and behold, that was an irrational fear of mine. Of course, you're gonna be changed. It doesn't look the same down there that it did before. There's kind of like, you can't really see, I guess, but I can definitely feel where I was cut and stitched up. It's like a small, like, bump, kind of scar almost. It's like a little bit more sensitive to the touch than it was like before. You definitely have to be careful. It's like right by your, like, it's gonna get so graphic, Lord Jesus. I hate talking about this kind of stuff, but it's necessary. It's like right by your vagina hole. So like anything that goes in there, it's like I can feel the stitch kind of, and I just have to just be really careful with what goes in there and how. That's the only major change that I feel. Like I can just feel where that stitch was, and it's still to this day like kind of creeps me out a little bit, and I'm just like really sensitive about that area. But other than that, everything looks the same. I didn't really look down there after giving birth. You can. A lot of people say like, here's a mirror. Like I took a mirror and I looked. I'm just too afraid. Like I'm such a punk. I am not good at that kind of thing. But from what you can see, like from what I could like see normally, like everything just did look normal, and I would just occasionally feel like with my finger like on the stitch when I did have the stitches, like what I was feeling like, is it swollen, just so that I would know how to treat it. Definitely was nothing to be scared about. Sorry, I'm getting like the low battery signal. It was nothing to be scared about. It just looked a little different because I had just gotten torn and stitched up. Now I don't know what it looks like or what it feels like after a tear, because again, I was just cut. But if it's like a really severe tear, depending on the degree, like I don't know. I've heard people say that they look even more snatched afterwards. I'm jealous. That would be cool. My camera's dying, so I have to work fast here. That's it for today's video. Thank you so much for watching. If you need me to do any other fears and any other categories that I had, definitely let me know. I would be happy to talk about any other fears that I had. There were definitely a lot of fears. So I know these were more childbirth based kind of, but if you need me to do any other category, I'd love to. Don't forget to like, don't forget to subscribe, and don't forget to check out any of my other videos that I posted so far. I'll see you guys next time. Bye.